whole time here.
Yeah.
Well, they go by the satellite time, so,
There, you okay? 10 seconds.
yes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the meeting of the Skokie Plan Commission for May 5th. Before I begin, I just want to let everybody know that the commission is an advisory board to the trustees. And our vote tonight is not final. We will make our recommendations to the board, and at their meetings on the first and third Mondays of each month, I will give my report, and they will review everything, and they will vote on the passage of on your request. So, without further ado, first order of business is to affirm the minutes from the last meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting?
So moved.
So moved, Jeff. Let's have a second.
Second.
Second by Cindy Franklin. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, minutes have been approved. First case tonight is case 2022-14P, a special use permit request at 5363 Lincoln Avenue. A request for outdoor storage to support propane tank sales for the Skokie Mart in a B1 service commercial district. Is petitioner here tonight? Please come up. Very good. Would you give us your name and address?
My name is Rajesh Patel, address 5363 Lincoln Avenue, Skokie Mart.
Okay. Okay. Raj, and I do know Raj. Raj, raise your right hand, please. Do you affirm that the testimony you give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth to help you? Okay. This is notice and order, Counselor.
Yes, no, this is proper and correct.
Thank you. Raj, why don't you just go over and give us a brief summary of what you want to do at your convenient mart here?
Just basically just convenient for the customer. We do carry ice and all of the item for summer products, so just for barbecue and stuff, convenient for the customer. That's the only one thing I'm missing is a propane tank.
I see. Okay. How large, how many tanks do you think you'll have there?
I think 16 or 18 and one cage.
Okay, good.
And it will be the lock and key in a cage.
Sure. Okay. Is there any questions of the petitioner from the commission? Anybody?
Where specifically will you have?
Oh, it's right up here?
In the front?
Yes.
And you'll put a cage around that?
No, it comes in a cage.
Oh, it comes that way?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, do you have anything else further to add?
But only one thing I would like to add is, far as about the tree, we got a plant, if you can grant it, instead of 2 trees, one, we will do the measurement and do it nicely. I will do nicely and put 1 tree because, one side we have a drainage and also the water line goes, Skokie water line as well.
Mhm.
As far as that's the reason I removed it last year, because it was damaging the piping. So if you can consider that, and I'll go,
Okay,
As
we'll
your
take that into
preference.
consideration when we hear a staff report.
sure,
Okay.
I mean, if you can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Okay, and Carrie, you can do it from here if you want.
I might go into.
Okay. Carrie Haberstash of the Skokie
Yes.
Plan Department will present the staff report tonight.
Alrighty, thank you. I request to have the report accepted into the record as written.
Request is granted.
All right, thank you. So the request for tonight for case 14P is for outdoor storage for propane tank sales. Since all business is supposed to be conducted indoors, that's why we have the special use process to consider limited outdoor business activities such as a propane tank sale in this, and exchange in this instance. The cage is proposed to be located in front of the brick portion of the north facade, and will hold up to 18 cylinders, both full, combination of full and empty, so they'll exchange with the help of staff, of Skokie Mart staff. And there will be a minimum, a 5-foot clear walkway. The garbage can might need to be relocated slightly, but the 5-foot clear walkway will be able to be accommodated with the sidewalk, because this walkway here is 10 feet wide, and the dimension of the cage is 27 inches deep, so there's more than 5 feet left for walkway width. In relation to the trees, there were 2 trees that were removed, and we have discussed, the implications of, or the effect of having the mature trees there. So requesting, instead of requiring 2, requesting 1 or 2 trees, and working with the village forester on proper placement of the tree so it minimizes the impact of the underground utilities. And as far as like an environmental issue, propane gas is a cleaner burning fuel than coal, so that's one of the reasons for this service for the neighborhood or anyone who may pass by this area. Staff recommends that the petitioner's request for a special use permit for outdoor storage to support propane tank sales at 5363 Lincoln Avenue in a B1 service commercial district be approved based on the proposed findings, positive findings of fact, and subject to the recommended conditions. Prior to the hearing of the case before the Board of Trustees, the petitioner must prepare a revised site and landscape plan that includes the footprint of the propane tank sales enclosure. And that would be, instead of just an arrow, that will have a little rectangle, so we have a proportioned site plan. And 1 bike rack per our village code, preferably located in such a way that it couldn't accommodate 2 bike parking spaces, because each rack can accommodate that. And the location of 1 or 2 trees with a plant list per the village forester's recommendations, including the common and botanic names and size of trees at trees at planting. And the rest of the conditions in the report are standard conditions.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
Commissioner, do you have any questions of staff?
Is it the same case they store empty cylinder?
Yeah, so the 18 cylinder capacity is both full and empty. I mean, they could all be full, they could all be empty, and then exchanged out. So there's no filling or refilling of the
So the total
canisters at
count
this
is 18.
location. It's just a delivery service will exchange the tanks.
Any other questions? No? Carrie, just curiosity,
Mhm.
how many other facilities in Skokie that sell propane outdoors?
I don't recall the number in the village, so
I
I'd
know
have
Ace
to get
Hardware
that.
does.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the number. I would have to
Okay.
research
just
that and
curious.
get back to you.
Okay. Any other questions? Nope. Okay, thank you, Carrie.
Okay, thanks.
Is there anyone in the audience who has a question or a comment on this case pertaining to outdoor sales of propane and storage? No? Sir, would you come back up? So I take it from the staff's report tonight that they are working with you on the trees, and they'll probably come to some equitable
Thank you.
solution for you.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay, all right,
Well, thank you.
thank you. All right, I need a motion. Jeff Berman what's your motion?
The motion to accept the staff report with the change of 1 to 2 trees as opposed to 2.
Okay. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw. Okay, call for the vote. Commissioner Osley,
Aye.
Commissioner Manchella,
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes.
Commissioner Franklin,
Aye.
Commissioner Jivayahu,
Aye.
Commissioner Lakani is absent tonight, Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Matei. No vote aye. Okay, again, this case still has to go before the Board of Trustees for final approval. Okay, good luck with your project. Thank you.
You're good.
Good night. The next, was it one? Next one, two, three, four.
Probably
Yeah.
should do 15 separate.
Oh, good news. Okay, well, all right, that's right. Although the next 7 cases are connected, we need to segregate to case 2022-15P and discuss that on its own, on merit. So, there's a petitioner here tonight for case 2022-15P, zoning map amendment at 7250, 7256 McCormick Boulevard.
Yes.
Please come up.
Oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong spot.
No, you're in the
No,
right spot.
You're in the right spot, I'm in the right
She
spot.
just has to change
Yeah,
the format.
yeah. Gotta get your case on here. There we go. Okay.
Okay, sir, good evening. Could you give
Good
us your name and the relationship to the petitioner?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So I'm Joe Giannini. I'm with Insight Real Estate. We're located at 1400 16th Street in Oak Brook, Illinois, and we are the developers of a subject property in Skokie at the northwest quadrant of Toohey and McCormick Boulevard. The site is currently, the address is 7300 McCormick Boulevard. We will be assigning new addresses as part of the
All right, may I just stop you for a minute, I'll swear you in?
Oh, sorry.
Do you affirm
Jumped ahead.
that the testimony you give tonight is the truth, and the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you?
I do.
Thank you. Counselors, there notice in order for this case, and should I, well, just lump them all
Might as
together
well
for
do 'em
notice?
all.
Yes.
15 through 21, notice is proper and correct.
Okay, good, thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, go ahead, please.
Okay.
Continue with your presentation.
Okay, so I've introduced myself, Joe Giannini with Insight Real Estate. We are petitioning to rezone and develop a approximately 3-acre parcel in Skokie on McCormick Boulevard. The petition here is for a zoning map amendment to change the current zoning from M3 industry and service to B2 commercial. We find that in order to facilitate development of the site, which has sat vacant since 1978, when it was a drive-in movie theater, we would need to rezone to B2. And
We were hoping that movie theater would come back, but I guess not.
I think there's only a couple left in Illinois right now, but we could try. So it has sat vacant for quite a while, and we're taking a look at it with the frontage on McCormick Boulevard. Obviously, there's a lot of vehicular traffic on McCormick that, you know, we would facilitate, or we would have a good site to facilitate commercial restaurant uses or quick serve restaurants. This has been the trend of development in this corridor for rezone from M2 to B2 or M3 to B2. And I provided some examples of that. And you can see from this map, the B2 to the south, which was done in 2013, and then the B2 to the west. It's not directly to the west, as there is a portion of Federal Mogul's property in between, but that was also zoned to B2. The developments on those newly rezoned properties to commercial include Mariano's and Longhorn Steakhouse, Starbucks, Bank of America, and I believe a wedding venue was the most recent in 2019, directly west there. So we see this as, you know, an opportunity for, to take a site that's right on a major throughway in Skokie, and get, you know, some life to it and provide, you know, additional patrons to the existing commercial uses within the area. So it's kind of, will become a B2 corridor for, and support the uses that have rezoned in this area. So that's kind of it.
Okay, very good. Any questions of the petitioner as to the zoning map amendment request? None, okay. All right, if you'll sit down for a moment, we'll listen to the staff report.
This one.
Okay.
Staff requests that the report be accepted into the record as written.
The request is granted.
Thank you. The request for case 15P tonight is for changing the zoning map from M3 industry to B2 commercial to hopefully assist with the following cases regarding limited service restaurants with drive-throughs. And the development will also include on-site stormwater management. The proposed retail and service employment use is not consistent with the manufacturing and service employment use identified in the comprehensive plan. Despite this inconsistency, the property is adjacent to an existing B2 commercial zoning district on an arterial street. The purple that kind of separates the two B2s that you see now and, you know, the proposed B2 before you tonight, those are service drives for Federal Mogul, and those are private drives on their property. So that's why it's purple and not reddish in color. So otherwise, if it was public right-of-way, we'd also have B2 or that kind of reddish color on that zoning map as well. Staff supports the request provided ample parking and drive-through stacking is provided. On-site pedestrian, bicycle, and large delivery and emergency vehicles can safely navigate the site. And there is no further encroachment of retail or service employment uses to the north of and the west of this specific site into the existing manufacturing and service employment uses without a review and update of the comprehensive plan. So staff recommends that the petitioner's request to amend the zoning map to change the zoning district at 7250 to 7256 McCormick Boulevard from M3 industry to B2 commercial be granted, subject to the attached proposed findings of fact.
Thank you. Any questions of the staff? None?
I have a question.
Yes,
Carrie,
Commissioner
I'm not
Burp.
certain we're the right places. I know you
Mhm.
dealt with the issues, sorry, my regular carrier, thank you for putting so much in, relative to trash. But I'm particularly worried about having 3 fast food restaurants on one parcel and then that private drive, so to speak. I'm just concerned about the litter in it and want to perhaps do something like we did with the Dunkin' Donuts where they're responsible for making sure Laramie's cleaned up as well.
Why don't you reserve that question for the site plan approval?
Okay, I'll do that.
This is just
I
a
would-
zoning chapter amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Just make sure you keep
Thank
it
you.
clean as long as it gets to B2. Regardless of the use.
Any other questions of the commission? Okay. Is there anybody out in the audience there tonight who have a question or comment on this case? The zoning chapter amendment? No? Okay. I'm moved, we need a motion on this case. Commissioner Berman?
Make a motion to accept the staff report as presented.
Thank you. And I need a second?
Second.
Commissioner Franklin, thank you. Okay. Call for the vote. Commissioner Osley,
Aye.
Commissioner Minchella,
Aye.
Commissioner Schock,
Yes.
Commissioner Franklin,
Aye.
Commissioner Giovanni,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Matei,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. Okay. Now, these next 6 cases are related. And if I could have the petitioner come back up again. Sure. In fact, why don't you, could you have them just stand behind you there and have them come up? And I'll swear all of them in, all of them in. Okay. Okay, gentlemen, before we proceed, would you all raise your right hand? Do all of you affirm that the testimony you give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you? I do. Thank you. Okay. Sir, why don't you take the microphone and maybe just introduce or have them come up to the microphone and introduce themselves to the commission?
Okay, start.
Hi, I'm Dan Maletic with R.A. Smith. We're at 1245 East Steel Road in Naperville. I'm the civil engineer working for the developer, and we're also the landscape architects on this project.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Javier Milan. I'm a principal with KLOA Incorporated, 9575 West Higgins Road in Rosemont, and we're the traffic engineers.
I'm Tom Safransky with Kimley Horn, civil engineer for Raising Canes. I'm at 4201 Winfield Road in Warrenville, Illinois.
Thank you, sir. Okay, who's gonna lead off tonight?
I can start, I guess.
Sure, okay.
Subdivision here. So with the property, just brief introduction. It's about 3 acres. What we are doing with the overall piece is a commercial re-subdivision, a carve out of the overall federal mogul property, and division into 3 lots. There's going to be an internal drive connecting the 3 lots. It is part of lot 1, but we'll have ingress egress to all 3 proposed tenants. The ingress egress on the existing drives to the north and south, which are also owned by the seller at this point in time, is included on the plat of subdivision here, as well as easements for existing utilities that run through the site at this time. We're proposing a dedication within our adjacent to the right-of-way of, I think it's 14 feet.
Yes.
And that is to facilitate an upgrade to the sidewalk that is in, it's going to be a dedication to IDOT to facilitate a new sidewalk to meet current standards along McCormick Boulevard. In the rear here on lot 3, there is a parking easement that is going to be provided to the seller, and that is 9 parking stalls, which is the loss of parking with the north access drive through the site. So in getting access to McCormick through there, we did eliminate some of the seller's parking, so we are replacing that on site and providing in parking easement to them. That's all I have for the subdivision.
And if you'd like the revised site plan, if you go to the bottom, you can, the new site plan, you can use them. Here.
Is there a mouse? Oh.
Yeah, should be a mouse in the drawer underneath.
Oops, sorry, right here.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a look at the site layout, and I believe your packets had a previous iteration of the site plan. We have made some updates per staff recommendations to try to facilitate additional pedestrian circulation through the site. That's just been an increase of the sidewalk interior here, so that there is north to south on along McCormick's frontage within the middle of the site, and then there is also an existing walkway along the west property line. That's kind of a carriage walk on the existing building. We do also provide pedestrian connectivity east to west between each lot. So, you know, it truly is something that you can come in, you can walk to each property within the subdivision along those walkways or along building frontages. As far as parking, we are providing each lot their own parking to code requirements. That's the intent of this subdivision and how we've laid this out. Is that each lot will be parked to code. The stormwater basin is up in the northwest portion of the property and has been working to size that out. That would be sized as a regional detention facility for all three users. At this time, we're proposing the development of Lot 1 and Lot 3 for Raising Canes and Culvers. Lot 2 is still to be determined. We believe that it would likely be a drive-through fast food restaurant user, but we do not have a tenant in place at this time, so our petition is currently on Lot 1 and Lot 3 for the special use permits.
Any questions of the petitioner, commissioners? Commissioner Berte.
Question related to, so in this parcel, which is 3 acres, on the north side of this, there appear to be about 40 cars parked. It's almost a little carve out of this parcel. Is that going to go with this, or do those stay?
The existing parking to the north, that will all stay. So what we've provided, where we do have to cut into that existing parking up north, we're providing the additional 9 stalls that would replace that parking. Cool. Oh, you guys did everything.
So that existing parking lot then for
Yeah.
Federal Mobile will not really change?
It would not change beyond this cut through for the internal access drive.
And then the ingress egress for this property is coming in through that existing curb cut, or is this a new, directly onto McCormick?
It is coming off the existing curb cut to the north, and then there's an existing curb cut to the south that facilitates this commercial subdivision and the Skokie Commons commercial subdivision where the Mariano's is located.
Okay, so will you be connected to both sides for ingress egress?
Correct. And that was something, you know, we were adamant about as far as getting that second point of access to the commercial subdivision, because it does facilitate just traffic in a better or traffic patterns, as you have both points of access to the site.
Thank you.
Commissioner Osley.
Can you articulate for me, it's unclear to me what improvements will be made to the third of, or the restaurant parcel that is yet to be determined? What improvements are anticipated for that, assuming you don't have that tenant in place?
At this point in time, we would be providing the stormwater detention for the future build-out of that lot, and then be marketing it. The drive would be put in place and the parking off the drive, but this would be just a pad-ready site until there's a tenant in place. The subdivision line for Lot 1, Lot 2 runs right in the middle of the parking row. I'm pointing when I have a laser pointer, but so it run right. The subdivision line runs right here. This would be a pad-ready lot until that tenant's, something's in place for that tenant.
So when you say pad ready, do you mean flat footing in place? What do you mean?
It
more
would be,
specific.
it would be a green site. So we wouldn't put pavement down until that end user is selected, and if any adjustments are needed just based on some operations of a proposed user there, we'd have to reserve some rights to, make some modifications to, whatever ends up at that location. So that's why we haven't included on this site plan, or in this petition, any special use permit for this lot specifically. At this point in time, we would be, if I could zoom out here.
It's actually fine, it's at 3 dots, just next to the percentage, or hit the percentage.
So we would be constructing the drive-through, the middle of the site, and then the lot 1 and lot 3. Also the detention basin up in the northwest corner.
Would there be adjustments to the parking as is depicted here?
No, generally the layout would remain the same.
But in terms of it being constructed, will it be fully realized, the parking as it is depicted here, if there are only 2 functional restaurants?
Yeah, and that's something with park per code for each individual lot. That's the intent, is that, they are self-functioning lots and park to code, where we wouldn't have to rely on, another lot for shared parking.
So the first 2 are the north, the south that'll front onto McCormick, and then the ones in the rear, and that's the one TBD on development.
It's lot 1 and lot 3, which is in the rear of the property.
Any other questions? Okay, at this time, I'd like the staff to present its report.
All right, thank you. Staff requests that these reports be accepted into the record as written, 16P through 21P.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So before you tonight is a development that includes a site plan approval, a related subdivision, and then also 4 special use permits, 2 for Raising Canes and 2 for Culvers. Raising Canes is at the southeast corner of the site, so it would be a special use for a limited service restaurant with drive-through. The drive-through is the special use portion of that. If there was no drive-through included, it would be a permitted use. And then also outdoor dining as well, and located on the east side of Raising Canes. And then the other 2 special use permits, again, a drive-through for Culvers, and then also outdoor dining for Culvers as well. And for the overall signage package, there is relief being requested for 2 ground signs instead of 1, to allow to have a sign basically almost more like a directional sign at each of the driveways. So 1 here and 1 here, making sure that the site distance triangle requirements are met, but that's one of the items of relief. And then the other items of relief are related to the directly related to the restaurants themselves. All right. And currently, the whole site is governed by 4 ordinances for industrial plan developments. So from an administrative standpoint, assuming this project moves forward, we'll work to probably separate them, because currently the site is included in the plan development for that, but we'll work with legal on how we best go forward with that. The subject site is currently vacant land, as mentioned before. So we have Raising Canes, roughly 3,300 square feet, and roughly 450 square feet of outdoor dining is proposed. The to-be-determined site is roughly 3,200 at this point for square feet for the building. Outdoor dining is also planned. In the case of Lot 2, which is at the northeast corner of the site, we anticipate once a business or restaurant is identified for this location, we'll come back here with their specific request, and I'm also anticipating maybe there might be a little, some sort of amendment to the site plan approval. So we're designing it based on, the current request and timeline for these two businesses, so not holding them up. So it's kind of a phased approach for this site plan approval. So expect to come back probably with a site plan approval modification, and then also, like, based on what you see here, special use permits, one for the drive-through for the limited service restaurant, and if they want outdoor dining as well. So we do expect kind of a round two for this overall development. And then Culver's is roughly 4,400 square feet and roughly 460 square feet of outdoor dining. Let's see. Motor vehicle access to the site will be using the existing curb cuts, as mentioned before. And the existing drives to the north and the south. Staff will request that part of this recommended approval is to make sure that the pavement is resurfaced and restriped as needed to make sure that it can accommodate the traffic, and then also just existing conditions kind of warrant that at this point. Okay, and this is part of the companion case of the zoning map amendment that we just heard earlier tonight. So drive-throughs and the outdoor dining are the special uses in B2 district. Lots of utilities going on, easements, so a lot of agreements. Both existing must stay in place and new ones must be created to enable this development. The Appearance Commission reviewed the Raising Cane's and the Culvers and the overall site as well on April 13th at their meeting, and they approved the 2 ground signs requested tonight. Raising Cane's was continued to the Wednesday, May 11th meeting to work through some of the signage, and they continued the whole case also for the building aesthetics, just because the signage might impact the building design. So any approval tonight would also be subject to the Appearance Commission's final approval, which is a certificate of appropriateness, being granted at these May 11th their May 11th meeting. Okay, so required parking based on the square footages of all 3 restaurants combined total is 109 parking spaces, and 130 are provided. So if there's any adjustments that might need to be made, maybe for Lot 2, or some minor adjustments as permitting moves forward, there are 21 extra spaces to work with. So we'll focus on the 109, and anything above that is a bonus. Bicycle parking requirements are 5% of the required parking. So at this time, it's 5 parking spaces. The site is adjacent to the North Shore Sculpture Park and the multi-use path. So we encourage additional parking just for people who may be recreating on any given day and wanting to come here to eat, that there's ample parking and bicycle parking provided as well. And in addition, each bike rack can accommodate 2 bicycle parking spaces. So any odd numbers, we encourage to have full use of the bike rack and have all even numbered bicycle parking spaces spread throughout the site, or near the entrances of each of the 3 buildings, more specifically. And the site must be designed to accommodate the fire department's tower truck. They have made some adjustments to the site plan since this report was written, and it looks very good, but we'll still have the fire department review that and engineering as well, just to make sure that it meets all the turning needs for the big tower truck. It should largely look like this. Any adjustment would be still in substantial conformance with what you see here. And Raising Cane's, their drive-through will provide 19 stacking spaces. Okay. An earlier site plan showed 13. We saw that 19 could fit, but we wanted to make sure that we had the count. So it's 19 vehicle stacking spaces through here. Could you speak to, maybe at some point after the report, as far as how the second drive-through lane works when it's not adjacent to the building? Okay. So the traffic impact study will need IDOT review and approval. On page 5 of the report, engineering had a few questions related to the traffic study. A written response has been provided and has been forwarded to the engineering staff for review. Stormwater management will also require MWRD review and approval. And for water conservation and electrical conservation, it's been a long day. Conservation will work with the Illinois Plumbing Code and the Illinois Energy Conservation Codes. Tree preservation. Tree protection fencing will be required for all on-site trees to be retained. So I can see. So there are existing trees along Skokie Boulevard. Actually, I'm going to pull up the landscape plan. McCormick, did I? Oh my goodness. Sorry. McCormick. I had several meetings about Skokie Boulevard today, sorry. So currently the sidewalks are right off the back of curb, and we would, with that 14-foot dedication, the sidewalks will be able to be moved to the west side of the trees. So there is tree protection fencing that would be required, but to kind of shift from one sidewalk to the other, we just ask that the petitioners work with the village forester on the details of how to protect the trees, but yet move one sidewalk from the back of curb to having a nice parkway and then a sidewalk for the public to use. Staff recommends that the petitioner's request for site plan approval be approved based upon the proposed findings of fact and subject to the recommended site plan approval conditions below, and as a separate vote for the relief for the 2 ground signs instead of the 1. And prior to the hearing before the Board of Trustees, the petitioners must provide an updated site plan. You do see an updated one here. There might be a few tweaks left to like parking space depth and that sort of thing, but largely it'll look like this assuming it's approved tonight. They have provided an interconnected network of on-site pedestrian walkways and crosswalks. We have to provide a few more 16-foot deep parking spaces with 2-foot bumper overhangs where parking spaces head into landscaping or sidewalks. The stop bars with stop signs have been provided on the north and south driveways. So these here. And then also at the north and south end. And then ample room for turning movements by the fire department's tower truck. Item 1B in the recommended conditions have been addressed to the point of that they've been submitted to engineering for review. And then item 1C, update the landscape plan and plant list to add a note to work with the village forester to modify the tree protection plan in preparation of the public sidewalk removal and installation along McCormick. And some of the one condition is separating the existing site plan approvals for the industrial plan development, separate that from the specific development. Otherwise, I believe Many of these are standard, addressing Fire Prevention Bureau comments, resurfacing and restriping the pavement areas north and south of the subject site on federal mogul property. And then for the 14-foot dedication, a plat of conveyance to IDOT, that's the first step before the subdivision can be recorded. And I believe that's it for site plan approval. The 3-lot subdivision coordinates with the development, as you see here. So the commercial buildings will have their own lots, but they'll also share pedestrian and motor vehicle circulation. So a combination of new easements must be created and existing must be retained for ingress, egress, and parking, and utilities. Okay. So the proposed water main and connection to the south is on a private water main, and the proposed private sewer is on private property, so both utilities will require agreements with the owner of those utilities. Staff recommends that the petitioner's request for a 3-lot subdivision of 7250 through 7256 McCormick Boulevard in a B2 commercial zoning district be granted, subject to the conditions in the report, including the plat of conveyance, the subdivision as shown earlier this evening, providing electronic files of the subdivision plat. And prior to the hearing of this case before the Board of Trustees, copies of all the existing, revised, and new easements, covenants, and conditions that are associated with this subdivision must be provided to the village manager or designee. And the rest are typical subdivision conditions of approval. Now I will move on to Raising Cane's. That's 2022-18P, a special use permit for their drive-through, and then 19P, a special use permit for their outdoor dining. So the outdoor dining is roughly 450 square feet. It may be larger based on once they finally put the footprint of the, finalize the footprint for the outdoor dining, but this is the general area for that. And so there will be a minimum of 19 drive-through parking spaces. And part of the request, so the Skokie's sign code, the spirit and the intent of the sign code is to minimize sign clutter, but maximizing wayfinding and keeping it clear. So the Raising Cane's has, so technically based on the code that applies to this particular development, since Raising Cane's has frontage on McCormick Boulevard, they can have a wall sign on facing McCormick Boulevard. So anything else would necessitate relief. This is a typical theme, so we do need to update the sign code eventually to accommodate some of this, but Culver's does have like one wall sign on each of the 4 sides of their building. Raising Cane's has wall signs plus, I believe this is considered like a number 1, One Love. This is kind of a, it's not quite a billboard, but it's a bigger kind of poster on the site. Oops, sorry. And so other posters as well. So this is subject to Appearance Commission review next week for the signage. Staff wouldn't support all of the signage, maybe making some of the signs maybe more of an architectural feature and not having, say, this billboard type sign. Bona Beef, well, I guess it's just Bona now, but they had some similar requests 2017, whenever they came through. And they did have to downsize their sign package as well. So we anticipate that not all of the signs you see here would be approved by the Appearance Commission, but that's subject to them. They have the final approval for aesthetics and, say, number of signs, size of signs, that sort of thing, but the Plan Commission is the one that grants the relief from the code. So it'll be kind of, normally we do it in, you know, the order where it goes to Appearance Commission, but since it was continued, we'll work with whatever is approved tonight as far as relief goes. It's also subject to the Appearance Commission giving the thumbs up on all the different signs or not, and maybe just a few of them next week at their meeting. So staff recommends that the petitioner's request for special use permits for 1, a limited service restaurant with drive-through, and 2, outdoor dining be approved based upon the proposed findings of fact and subject to the recommended special use permit conditions below. And in a separate motion, an increase in wall signage per the elevations, but with the upcoming restrictions added to the certificate of appropriateness by the Appearance Commission for the Raising Cane's property. In addition to the conditions of case 17P, which is the overall site plan approval, the petitioner shall obtain a certificate of appropriateness from the Appearance Commission regarding the building design and sign package. And relief from the sign code may only be granted for the items specifically approved by the Appearance Commission. Adding barriers and fencing, landscaping, or other features to the site and landscape plans to define the outdoor area. They have added some of that, so we should be good on that. And then also preparing a Raising Cane specific landscape plan, kind of like for the foundation plan, plantings around the building, that's expected to be separate from an overall landscaping package for more of like the common areas. And, okay, so done with that. And then our final 2 cases for this development, 2022-20P, a special use permit for outdoor dining, and then 21P, a special use permit for 20P is drive-through, 21P is outdoor dining for Culver's. Their proposed building is just under 4,400 square feet, and their proposed outdoor dining is roughly 460 square feet. Actually, I'm gonna go back to. And it's probably here. Nope. Oh. Drive-through, okay. So for Culver's, per the traffic impact analysis, a minimum of 12 drive-through stacking spaces will be provided. We'll go here. Pardon me. Oh, here we go. I'll do this. There we go. And for Culver's, relief may be granted to allow more than one wall sign for the building. So for the sign code that impacts Culver's, which doesn't have any direct frontage on public right-of-way, they are also allowed one wall sign, facing the parking lot, for instance. So they have requested wall signs for one for each facade, so for a grand total of 4. Staff recommends that the petitioner's request for special use permits for 1, a limited service restaurant with drive-through, and 2, outdoor dining, be approved based upon the proposed findings of fact and subject to the recommended special use permit conditions below, including separate relief for the additional wall signage per the certificate of appropriateness issued last month. And then prior to the hearing of the subject cases before the Board of Trustees, the petitioner shall add the barriers, fencing, et cetera, to define the outdoor dining area and ensure that it's not within any site distance triangle. on the site. And then prepare a Culvers-specific landscape plan for the area immediately surrounding the building. And the rest are kind of general, or more standard conditions of approval.
Very good.
I think
Gary,
I
thank you
covered
very much.
everything.
Any questions of the staff?
On the lot one, you have two driving lines, so which street they enter and where they have exit?
So they would either enter in the existing curb cut down here or the curb cut to the north, and then come down, this north-south spine is kind of the common driveway for all three lots. So to come to lot one, either drive through here and then go through the drive-through this way, or come from the south and then go through the driveway, or the drive-through. Same
So they
for,
have exit on a McCormick if somebody wants to get out?
so you can come in, it's a two-way, directional, in that north-south spine, so you can go north or south, or come from the north and leave through the north, or come from the south and leave through the south. Or you could do a combination, mix it up a little. And then for Culvers, you'd use the spine and then come through here, their drive-through this way. Yep, yes.
Any other questions?
Couple things. One, and again, I'm not suggesting in any particular one of these cases, but maybe some of them more overall. I didn't see within the individual cases for the special use permits relative to the drive-throughs, the sound references in terms of the restrictions and the village has relative to sound levels and things.
Okay.
And maybe I missed it, but I think typically too,
Mhm.
relative to some of the lighting restrictions relative to the outdoor dining and,
It's probably in the overall, site plan, but we
Okay.
can be sure to add that
okay.
into the, okay.
All right, and then relative to litter,
Mhm.
which I was starting to say before, I have a huge concern about having all these fast food restaurants in one parcel. And in particular with these two drives, that's not clear in terms of who's responsible for maintaining them to keep them clean on east-west drives on either side of it. So in just recent case with the Dunkin' Donuts, we had the property owner, the petitioners responsible every 4 hours to make sure
Mhm.
not only their property, but also the access drive, in that case it was Laramie, that's kind of dedicated to them
Mhm.
to some degree, be incorporated in that. And so I think that makes sense here too. Otherwise, we're gonna have litter blowing out on those two access
Mhm.
drives and nobody's gonna be responsible for maintaining it.
Mhm.
And then also, the reference was there relative to the trash receptacle at the end of each of the drive-throughs. We've had issues with recent cases where they're not in the right place, and so to make it very specific, it's gotta be on the driver's side of the cars. And also, the trash receptacles is required, and I understand the health department will dictate how many, but you make reference to at each entrance, which I agree, but also we should be requiring it, that it be also in the outdoor dining areas, and
Okay.
it was silent on that. And so, I don't know where all that goes, but those are my concerns.
Okay. Yeah, so we can add those as a condition or conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Michello?
Knowing that the bicycle paths are exactly on the other side, what's the thought about what will happen on the sidewalks on the west side of the street? Because the entrance, in order to discourage people from just going right across the street from where they're at on the bicycle path, that they would be coming up from Tui and have to go up the sidewalk, or coming from Howard and going down the sidewalk. What's the anticipation as far as dealing with the bicycles now being on the west side of McCormick instead of on the bicycle path?
So, as far as like crossing the street, you know, going from,
Yeah, and not
from one side to
crossing
the
it
other, yeah.
right there.
The official route, that they should take is, using the crosswalk, at Tui and not
Or if they're
cut
coming
across,
from,
yeah,
if they're
or
coming
yes,
from
or
the
if they're
north, it
coming
would
from
be
the
from
north, yeah,
Howard.
or over here.
So are they then going to be riding on the sidewalk or on the street?
They could, yeah, there are sidewalks along here, so one of the reasons why the sidewalk is being relocated from the back of curb is also to align with the sidewalk, that's along McCormick Boulevard, so, the anticipation is, either through, along, the sidewalk along, McCormick, or, you know, they may go through the, I call it
Yeah,
the
they could,
Mariano site,
yeah,
but yeah, the
they
Skokie
could.
Commons.
illegal unless you're at the signal
Mm.
cross.
Well, we know that, but I'm talking realistically.
Yeah.
What people will be doing when as they're driving, they're riding north and they say, oh, look at, you know, let's
Mhm.
stop and get something. Are they gonna wanna go back all the way to Tui? Or if they know that they're coming to that location and they're coming from the north, from
Mhm.
Howard, I know the sidewalks there along, yeah, you're not supposed to use sidewalks, you're supposed to be in the street. And is
Oh,
that what the
sorry.
expectation will be?
I think IDOT will have an opinion on that.
Mhm.
I know this is 8 feet wide along here, but it looks narrower along here. So, because this is intended to be a multi-use path, so the 8 feet wide helps accommodate both bicyclists and pedestrians, so, but it does look narrower along here, so. I know the official answer is to be crossing at a marked crosswalk. Hopefully, I mean, since there aren't any connections here, hopefully they would just continue on the path and actually go the proper formal.
Right, the path is close
Yeah.
enough to the street, at least the west side of the path is close enough to the street for somebody to go, look at,
Mhm.
let's go across.
There's some elevation difference too, so I think it's a jump up to those paths, where they'd have to shoot down the hill and then come across the street, it might be, alright,
We'll try that, see.
Mm.
The hill's more, yeah. So the official response is that they need to cross at a marked
Thank you.
crosswalk.
It's not a question, but landscaping barriers might help.
Okay. Any other questions, discussions with staff? Okay, thank you,
All
Carrie.
right, thank you.
And can I have the petitioners come back up?
I think you should just only need to click right there, yeah.
All right, so you listened to the staff report, and you listened to some of the comments of the commissioners. Do you have any comments or closing statements of your own?
I think we're okay with staff's recommendations. I do want to, as far as a signage package for Raising K's, some of those items, as far as the terminology used, to them, there is some artwork, pieces of artwork that they have in that signage package. They'd like to work with staff and work with the community in order to get some of their branding efforts, because it's not inherently known to be a restaurant location as what the name's are with the name Raising Cane's or the logo. So, that is something I just want, I do want them to have the opportunity to speak on, their branding packet.
For the record, what are the hours of operation for both these franchises? Would anybody want to discuss that?
Something written down. Do you know offhand, Tom?
Raising Cane's, their standard operation hours are 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 a.m. Sunday through Thursday, and 9:30 a.m. to 3:30 a.m. Friday and Saturday.
Wow, really late. Okay.
The Raising
Early.
Cane's, point of information, the Raising Cane's in Morton Grove, which is on Dempster, closes at midnight, according to what's posted.
Yeah, it's definitely subject to what's allowed in the municipalities. That is what their typical would be, and that's what they would ask for.
Mhm.
But also, if it doesn't warrant that for this municipality, and there's no business
We
at
have
that
no
time.
limits, do we?
sure
No, we don't have any time limits, I mean,
Okay.
The outdoor dining we do, but
for the outdoor
yes,
dining.
yes,
I think
10 p.m.
10 p.m. is the closing point, the closing time for outdoor dining.
Okay.
Okay. And how about the Culvers? Any,
It'd be similar. I don't have a written down as far as, a daily schedule for the hours of operation, but it's not a
Again,
24-hour
point of-
establishment
Okay.
for anything.
point of information that the Culvers in Skokie presently, again, what is posted, is 10:30 on Friday, 10:30 on Saturday, 10 p.m. on Sunday, for some reason midnight on Monday, and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday also 10 p.m.
okay, well. Monday must be a big night for them.
Monday Night Football anymore?
Yeah.
Could be. Okay. Commissioner Berman, would you want to discuss with them about their trash issue, or
Sure.
should we move ahead?
I'm happy to do that. I'm not certain if you have any questions on what I'm suggesting, but we have a requirement in the village relative to fast food and automotive. For fast food, or restaurants, I should say, or actually any business selling food, if there's a drive-through, there's got to be a trash receptacle at the end of the drive-through lane. And for some reason, some organizations choose to do it on the other side, but it should in theory be on the driver's side. There should be at least one at the entrance of each one, and there should be at least one, the health department will determine how many, in the outdoor dining area, and some, I believe, in the parking area, but that's to be determined by the health department.
Okay.
And then there is a requirement that every 4 hours, the facilities police their own area relative to trash and empty the trash receptacles. And what I'm proposing is that because those east-west drives are in essence, now access for this facility, or these facilities, that be included in the 4-hour requirement relative to policing.
Okay. Yeah, and there's some shared maintenance responsibilities on both those drives. I don't know if it was intended to include something as far as litter or refuse pickup, but that I don't see that as a significant issue for, either establishment where, the staff inherently does, at times walk through the parking lot, pick up, just to make sure that the brand and the store looks clean, right? So I don't see that as a major issue. I actually kind of love the enforcement of the trash receptacle at the end of drive-through lanes, because I use those all the time myself. So I think that's kind of a neat thing for everybody. So I don't see any issues. And I think you guys had a couple trash receptacles already, because we did identify that. I think there is two. There's one at the store entrance, and then one in the patio area already. I don't know if it's shown
Could you
on
speak into
here.
the microphone for the record?
Sure. So yeah, the Raising Cane's, their two main entry points are, I don't know right here and right here. It's not shown on this plan, but typically there's a trash receptacle at both of those, and there is usually a designated one within the patio area. Raising Cane's does have a somebody on staff who's identified as the restaurant image position, and so they are the ones specifically tasked with making sure that the entire property is tidy. If they identify anything that is in need of repair or maintenance, they report that and make sure it's properly maintained. Pest control, they're in charge of all those items.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry?
Have them confirm the drive-through operations.
Oh, yeah, would you confirm the drive-through operations as far as
Yeah, that second lane.
the second
Yeah.
lane?
Sure.
Can I emphasize on that?
Yeah, so Raising Cane's, as you can see, it's a dual drive-through lane all the way through until at the very end where the two lanes merge for a single egress. There are two menu boards located here and here. And then both your cars will stay in their respective lane, and a crew member will be walking up and down this aisle to deliver the food orders from the pickup window. They will also be using tablets to facilitate payments. Also during peak hours, if warranted, and they need to crank out cars quicker. They will also employ crew members prior to the menu boards, where they'll use tablets to help take the orders, which will give the kitchen, a little bit longer to then fulfill that order, so they can quickly get people on and off the site.
Yeah, good idea. Very good. Does the Representative of Culvers have any comments on position of the drive-through, or?
For drive-through, I mean, their only intent, or their traffic for this specific location would be a little bit less intense. They do have only 12 stacking and the escape lane there, so they aren't intending at this time to run two drive-through operations, just
Okay.
a single. That's the gist of it.
Okay, very good. Any other questions, comments? All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Okay, now proceed with our complicated voting here. First, let's bring up the subdivision, the case 2022-16P subdivision at 7300 through 7250 McCormick. Do I have a motion for a subdivision? Commissioner Berman, do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner
It's a motion to
Osley?
approve, I'm assuming.
Was that motion to approve?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. Okay, call for the vote. Commissioner Osley,
Aye.
Commissioner Manchella,
Aye.
Commissioner Schock,
Yes.
Commissioner Franklin,
Aye.
Commissioner Jimiahu,
Aye.
Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Matei,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. Okay, thank you. Now, the site plan approval in case 2022-17P. Do I have a motion? Commissioner Berman, yes.
I'd like to make a motion subject to the additions that I mentioned earlier,
As far as trash receptacles?
which is trash receptacles at the drive-through on the driver's side,
Okay,
the trash receptacles at the front doors, trash receptacle in the outdoor dining, with the quantities to be determined by the health department, and that the real estate, or the property that they're responsible for relative to the 4-hour requirement of policing include the east-west access roads, both north and south.
okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Schock, thank you. Okay, call for the vote. Commissioner Osley,
Aye.
Commissioner Manchella,
Aye.
Commissioner Schock,
Yes.
Commissioner Franklin,
Aye.
Commissioner Gervayahu,
Aye.
Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Matei,
Aye.
now vote aye. Okay, moving on. The
Well,
special,
we have the relief for 17P.
we have a relief for
Karen, do you want the
17P.
motion to have a specific number of signs are allowed, or just say more than one and leave it to staff determination or something?
Since they requested the two, maybe just
Just two?
just
Okay.
two, yeah.
So we would just need someone to present a motion, either approving or rejecting 2 signs and relief
17P?
for 17P. Relief from 8228.
With the two signs versus the one sign.
I'll second it.
Okay. That was Commissioner Matei, is that correct? Yeah, your motion was to,
Approve 17P with the relief for the two signs versus the one sign.
approve 2 signs versus 1 sign. That's ground signs.
Yes.
Correct.
And Commissioner Berman, did you second that?
I did, thank you.
Thank you. I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Osley,
Aye.
Commissioner Manchella,
Aye.
Commissioner Schock,
Yes.
Commissioner Franklin,
Aye.
Commissioner Gervayahu,
Aye.
Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Matei,
Aye.
now vote aye. Okay, moving on. Now we're on to 2022-18P, special use permit at 7250 McCormick. This is for the drive-through, correct?
Drive-through
Yes.
for Raising- yes. Drive-through for Raising Cane's.
Okay. Drive-through. Okay. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm wondering, relative to the sound level for the order banks, should that be an amendment to the motion for each of these?
Isn't that part of our standard approval or standard conditions? Is sound limits?
It is,
'Cause we have a
Like,
sound,
quick
sound limit.
review.
Yeah. Because I don't think it's needed.
Item 6, any outdoor sound systems shall at all times maintain audio levels that are compliant with the
Oh,
Skokie
is it in
Village
there?
Code.
Did I miss it?
Yes.
That is,
yeah.
Okay.
that is a standard
Did I-
condition.
did I stand, okay.
There was a lot of rearranging, so I wasn't sure if like it got lost in copying and pasting,
stand
so,
corrected?
yeah.
So I'll make a motion to accept as presented.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Giordano, thank you. Call for the vote. Commissioner Osley,
Aye.
Commissioner Manchella,
Aye.
Commissioner Schock,
Yes.
Commissioner Franklin,
Aye.
Commissioner Giordano,
Aye.
Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Matei,
Aye.
now vote aye. Okay, thank you.
Now we have the 18P relief.
And we need 18P relief.
Carrie, how many wall signs do they want?
I would say allow for more than one wall sign, subject to the Appearance Commission's final certificate of appropriateness.
Okay.
So we would need another motion to that effect.
Relief of signage. Do I have a motion for Commissioner's, petitioner's request for additional signage for 2022-18P?
So I would make that motion to approve, subject to.
Appearance Commission?
The Appearance Commission.
Okay.
And that's in relation to wall signs, right?
That's in relation to wall signs for,
Those two.
18P.
Perfect.
I'll second.
Okay. Commissioner Franklin and Commissioner Giordano. Call for the vote. Commissioner Osley,
Aye.
Commissioner Manchella,
Aye.
Commissioner Schock,
Yes.
Commissioner Franklin,
Aye.
Commissioner Giordano,
Aye.
Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Matei,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. Thank you. Moving on, we have case 2022-19P, Special use permit, 7250 McCormick, this is for the outdoor dining? Okay. And do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion?
To approve as presented.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second,
Commissioner Franklin?
yes.
Thank you. Call for the vote. Commissioner Osley?
Aye.
Commissioner Manchella?
Aye.
Commissioner Schock?
Yes.
Commissioner Franklin?
Aye.
Commissioner Giovannahu?
Aye.
Commissioner Berman?
Aye.
Commissioner Matei?
Aye.
Now vote aye. Okay, do we need any more relief?
Not for
No.
this one. no.
Okay. In case 2022-20P, special use permit, this is for the drive-through, right? Drive-through.
Yes, drive-through for Culvers.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve,
Commissioner Franklin?
yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Who's that? Commissioner Schock? Thank you. Call for the vote. Commissioner Osley?
Aye.
Commissioner Manchella?
Aye.
Commissioner Schock?
Yes.
Commissioner Franklin?
Aye.
Commissioner Giovannahu?
Aye.
Commissioner Berman?
Aye.
Commissioner Matei?
Aye.
Now vote aye.
And we do have relief for wall signs.
And we have relief for wall signs. And
How many
that's
wall
for-
signs in this one, Carrie?
Those-
This one confirmed for four.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is 2021 or
2020.
20P. 20P. Okay.
So relief for more than one wall sign for a total of
Relief
4.
for more than one wall sign.
And
And
that involves one on each side of the building?
Is that subject to
Yes.
Appearance Commission also?
They approved that.
They received approval.
Yeah.
They
They,
received
they have a
approval.
certificate of appropriateness.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so this is for relief for more than one sign, for more than one wall sign. Okay, on the entire project
For Culvers,
for Culvers.
Specifically for Culvers.
Okay.
allowing for 4.
Okay. Need a motion?
Motion to approve more than one sign for
Okay.
case 2020-20P.
20P, thank you. Can we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. Call for the vote. Commissioner Osley,
Aye.
Commissioner Manchella,
Aye.
Commissioner Schock,
Yes.
Commissioner Franklin,
Aye.
Commissioner Giovannahu,
Aye.
Commissioner Berman, Commissioner Matei.
Aye.
Now vote aye. And we have a special use permit for, this is for case 2020, 22, 21P. This is for the outdoor dining.
Yes.
Culvers.
Right. Do I have a motion to,
Motion to approve case 2020-22-21P.
okay, thank you, Commissioner Shaw. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Manchella, thank you. Call for the vote, Commissioner Osley,
Aye.
Commissioner Manchella,
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes.
Commissioner Franklin,
Aye.
Commissioner Giovannahu,
Aye.
Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Matei.
Aye.
Now vote aye. Okay. I believe that wraps up your evening. And thank you very much for choosing Skokie as your place of business. And we're looking forward to your project, and good luck with it. Again, these cases will still have to go before the Board of Trustees. You will all be notified when that meeting will take place, okay? And you'll receive a copy of the Plan Commission report shortly, or soon.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Have a safe drive home. Let's see, final order of business tonight is what do we have, a chapter amendment?
Yes.
We have a chapter amendment, I lost, case 2021. Is that right, 2021 from last year?
Yes, it started
28P.
last year.
Oh, yeah, 2021-28P, zoning chapter amendment to allow all good stuff on all places.
Yeah.
zoning chapter amendment to allow professional offices within a mixed-use district retail streets. Carrie?
All
you're up.
right, thank you. At the December 2nd Plan Commission meeting, this was discussed that it was forthcoming.
Mhm.
So, our core mixed-use district requires, there's a retail street designation where the first floor is expected to be retail, primarily along Oakton, Lincoln, and, parts of Skokie Boulevard as well. The intent is to have the use where it's kind of, you keep the captive audience, shopping the whole time. Once you throw in an office use, sometimes like the vibrancy of, say, a shopping district kind of gets lost
Yeah.
in that. So that's been the focus of our retail street since.
You're looking for continuity.
Yes, try and have them clustered together, because there is some mental,
Imaging.
no longer window shopping if you walk past an office, I guess, for lack of a better term. So, downtown Skokie, we've been striving to create like a restaurant and destination district since even before I got here 12 years ago. We really want to have uses such as retail, personal services, like salons and dry cleaning, to add to the convenience for nearby residents who are also live near or in downtown. From a parking perspective, when you're shopping, you're not here, parking at 7:55 a.m. and then leaving at 5:05 p.m. There's turnover and kind of keeping up with the vibrancy and reducing the parking demand in some way from not having a car just parked here all day. The mix of uses are also, for retail, typically for profit, so that helps with sales tax and property tax base as well. Because it's kind of a boutique type concept in downtown Skokie, you don't find lots of chains. We used to have one, but you don't find many chains, and so especially with the recent events of the last 2+ years, it's really, and a lot of online shopping as well, that the market for new restaurant and retail space is quite narrow, and so we are experiencing a rise in downtown vacancies. We want to enable landlords to have people occupy their space. I mean, having it occupied with a use, is better than vacant with, a for lease sign. So we want to activate, even if it's not maximum activation, I guess, along the retail streets. Staff is proposing using professional offices as a permitted use within the downtown and the retail street designation. Uses such as real estate services, property management services, and the broad category of business, professional, scientific, and technical services, including accounting, legal, design, and other professional services. This does not include, however, medical and dental offices. There is a very large upfront investment that would really make it hard to maybe find a new location, say in 5 years for that office, maybe somewhere else in downtown, and be able to backfill that with a retailer maybe in 5 years if, the economy proves the need for that sort of use back in the downtown. We also are proposing to limit the offices to interior tenant spaces, so not on the corners of, kind of the First and Main. We want to keep that retail, but the buildings in between, to focus on that. And then also limiting the size of, say, a single professional office space to 2,500 square feet. And part of that is also to help with the parking needs or parking demand, and, tying up parking spaces to, that it's a limited amount. So we still have ample parking. This would also include allowing amenities serving mixed-use developments on the first floor, say maybe a workout facility for a building where there's people living above, and it could be like a fitness center, mostly focused on the tenants within that building. But again, there would be some activity behind the wall instead of just, kind of a blank space with a for lease sign. We also would propose removing the main street from the retail street designation. This is between Skokie and the CTA rail line. Retail, restaurant, and personal services are less viable in this area, and vacancies have also been an issue there as well.
So Carrie, that is currently retail?
Yes, a retail street designation.
But there's users in there that are not.
Correct. So, I mean, there are users,
There's
there
names
could be
for that
users
company.
that were there before the retail street designation came in. There was also a period of time, roughly 10 years ago, where the vacancies were increasing because of the Great Recession. And so there was kind of a moratorium of sorts, because there was a lot of interest in office users occupying some of these spaces, but like no retailers, and so we were trying to help landlords financially, occupy the space. We're grateful that the landlords want to have their spaces occupied and not kind of keep it vacant until whenever,
But in
as well.
particular, the bank that's on the corner, now vacant bank on the corner of Main and Skokie Boulevard, that would still have a retail component.
Yes, because that's on the corner. Or at least that corner space, if there's multiple tenant spaces.
Further down.
Yeah.
Right.
Any questions?
Curious as to what the current vacancy rates are and approximately how many buildings or parcels would be impacted by this.
I don't have that information off the top of my head. I know Matt and Len worked diligently on this, so I'm just presenting. I know there are vacancies, and it would be nice to have all spaces filled. And it's been probably an ongoing conversation in the 12 years I've been here that some office user wants to occupy a retail space as well. So we wouldn't support like the dental medical just because of the upfront investment. So hopefully it wouldn't be a long-term solution, but maybe a shorter-term solution that we could find them a new home in the not too distant future, that we could backfill it with retail at some point.
How would that be accomplished? How do you change, do you then go and change the zoning again? To take those people out,
We're hoping like the market will kind of drive that turnover, that maybe, a retailer, maybe the office user is outgrowing their space, or wants to relocate elsewhere, and then hopefully there would be a demand at some point in the future where a retailer would want to come and backfill that space.
I understand that. And what I'm asking is how do you then assure that it goes back to retail instead of that it would go back to professional offices? Do you amend the zoning chapter again?
That would be another step to do that if we don't rely on the market to kind of drive the retailers on the first floor. That would be another mechanism to have a meeting like this again and remove that professional office option on retail streets at some point in the future.
So then would it create a situation where people who have been renting those spaces would not be able to renew their leases?
I would see them as being grandfathered until they choose to move.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
getting at. Thank you.
Mhm.
So are we envisioning that we will have retail on the corners and then the whole interior being
It
all
could be a
these
mishmash.
offices of one
That-
or another?
Might be possible. I think there's at least some retailers between buildings, but I mean, that is a possible scenario with this proposed amendment, that it would just be on the corners for retail and then office in between.
Sounds like it's gonna kill downtown.
I was gonna say, it sounds like, I know you're just picking this up and didn't really work on it, but it seems like we're just giving up on downtown.
That's
Well, I think the reality is these stores, especially the I struggle with a couple things. First of all, I will approve this.
Mhm.
I'm in favor of it, but I'm troubled by putting retail in a requirement on developments on Skokie Boulevard when we can't even rent the downtown. So why do we have a requirement? Because I know what we're talking about, the new building across from the CTA Swift. The first floor is vacant, it's not gonna rent. People drive 45 miles an hour, there's no visibility. Why do we continue to play this game that we're someday gonna have retail on Skokie Boulevard? Because it just hurts our downtown.
So, I guess from my perspective, that building specifically that you're talking about, or even Skokie Boulevard, it is, adjacent to a train station, so at least in theory, it should be filled with retail. In concept, at least me personally, I'm supportive of like maybe flex space, so, I mean, if you build a building that's supposed to last, 50, 100 years, that sort of thing, I wouldn't wanna build it to not anticipate the possibility that it could happen in the future. Like, I wouldn't want to wish that it was designed differently, so, more of a flex space where it could accommodate, retail, could accommodate restaurants, but maybe at this point, at this stage in 2022 or whatever, that it could be backfilled with, or filled with, some sort of usable, make it usable, have it be used, but then have the ability to, backfill it, even if it's 10, 20, or whatever years in the future, once the demand hopefully will be there.
And to the point of the bicycles crossing McCormick to sneak over to Ernie fast food restaurants, the same issue really is even more prevalent with the train station, because you've got to walk all the way down, walk all the way around, because you can't go over the tracks. So again, the idea that we're gonna get foot traffic from there onto Skokie Boulevard is maybe a bridge a little far for me to grasp.
Can I add to this conversation, because I'm supportive of what the Commissioner is saying, that I think you mentioned earlier flexibility, and before that, you talked about what some of that flexibility could look like. In other words, you gave the specific example of, a residential building using what would be planned or programmed as retail space for an exercise facility. I would suggest that additional creativity along that line would be appropriate. So the specific development we're talking about, if we would like to see, for example, a coffee shop in a place like that in the future, why not allow a residential building to have a tenant amenity that is effectively the build out of a coffee shop, but for internal use and consumption only, right? I would just suggest that more thinking along those lines could help activate the space, but acknowledge the limitations that are being articulated in terms of the ability to, recruit and secure a tenant. Because I think the challenges are real. The reason why I asked about the vacancy rates is I was curious as to how far off we are in comparison to, let's just say the general standard for our area. But clearly vacancy rates are going up everywhere, but, if we're an additional 5 or 10 percentage points off of that standard, then that would suggest even more radical steps might be warranted.
I'd say 30% of them are vacant.
Yeah.
What about Main Street East? All those stores are from Crawford West to
From-
whatever the K Street is.
The main focus is the retail streets, which would be basically our core mixed-use district and, Oakton
That's
and,
east down
yeah,
by Crawford.
yeah.
With the dilapidated storefronts and no retail.
Because there were some of them vacant 20 years.
I'd like to see those as townhomes one day.
I foresee other, visits to you in the future about
Okay.
both planning and zoning. But for this particular case, the main focus was, the retail street
I
component,
think
yeah.
many communities have struggled with this. Listen, Wilmette has, Lake Forest never allowed a realtor in downtown Market Square. They never store. The reality is Amazon is killing retail. So every time you order Amazon, it's another nail in the little store's coffin, and that's just a reality of where we're at. So the adjustment, I think, is warranted, so I'm in favor.
Any other discussions, questions?
Got to call for it.
Okay, ready to call for motion?
Motion to approve case 2021-28P.
Commissioner Frank, Matei, and Berman. Okay, call for the vote. Commissioner Osley,
Aye.
Commissioner Manchella,
Aye.
Commissioner Schock,
Yes.
Commissioner Franklin,
Aye.
Commissioner Giovannahu,
Aye.
Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Matei,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Anything else before the
Any new
commission?
business?
If not, this meeting is adjourned. Thank
Thank you for